I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Minutes of the last month's meeting. Do what?
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Roll call.
That's not on the agenda.
Cargill.
Yes.
Fearing. Belinda.
Here.
IT. Here.
Now. Last month's minutes. Do I have a,
Make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
Support.
in favor of approving last month's minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we have any additions or anything to the agenda?
One thing on the number 3 on new business is short-term rental. I would just like to have not just late fees, but talk about short-term rentals.
Okay.
So,
So short-term rental and late fee,
well,
something like that.
yeah, just short-term rentals.
Anything else? Additions or,
I'm looking to approve the agenda.
support, anybody?
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Okay, correspondence.
Okay. We have a letter from FEMA for the 2023, I say 2023, but Oceana County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And they want, it's now approved for Oceana County, and we're supposed to pass the resolution for it, I think, later down on the agenda.
Okay.
And then Shelby Township board distributed their draft for the master plan, and they're just asking for us to review it and give them any feedback.
I tried to open that and I could not get it to open.
Oh, you couldn't?
No.
Well,
I have a friend and I can give it to you later.
Do you? Okay,
Okay.
there we go.
sounds good.
Look at it.
Okay. Anything else?
You got a letter, Rachel, that was from Kathleen,
Kathleen
yeah, Everwards,
Halverhurst?
yeah.
I'm not sure if you're talking about.
Certified.
I don't know, it's about a zoning ordinance complaint form. Is this something that was sent?
It was sent to,
Sent to Carl, I guess.
and all of the board members, because I got a copy of it.
I got it.
I don't know, was this during elections?
Probably.
Unfortunately.
It was in my box.
Cause I don't remember, but you know, I don't know.
Nice.
Okay.
You put it on there.
Yeah, I think we should just have Ed take care of this.
So what's going on there is that you're good, is that there were complaints that there was a landscaping business being run out of a residential property.
Correct.
And that complaint was made to Rob as the zoning administrator. He made a determination that there was no business being run out of that
Right.
residential business, so he made a factual determination. So any appeal from that determination should be made to the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
So it would be incorrect for you to do anything or
Okay.
run anything through, it
Mhm.
goes to the zoning board. appeals, if anybody chooses to appeal it.
Well,
So
I
do
like
we
that.
notify them of that, or we just,
I mean, they can, that it is, but you're giving them legal advice.
oh, I don't.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There is some amount of, but hopefully from this, from whatever, when you appeal you can appeal for a variance, you can appeal for a judgment of the zoning administrator to the zoning board of appeals. That is the proper channel
mhm,
for those,
complaints.
for that appeal of his decision.
Okay,
And that's what I'm saying. And if you're asking me, no, I wouldn't send him a letter that said that.
hmm,
That would be something that when people. That is the workings of government. They can ask you, you can tell them.
you have to appeal to the ZBA.
Yeah. But. That's also where people wanna get, I mean, when you start to get to that level, you wanna get a lawyer. If it's something that's important, get a lawyer,
Yeah. Okay. No other correspondence? Okay. In our investment accounts, the general fund has 198,347.98. The road fund has 447,998.20, but I took 400,000 out, so right now it only has 47,998.20. Capital fund, 442,309.53. Silver Lake Trail, 819.50, and the park fund, 2,106.54. The cemetery, perpetual care is 61,348.07, and the ARPA funds, well, it has a penny in it, but they've all been, moved over to the, general fund to pay for the building and the well. So in the checking accounts, the capital savings account has 5,804.53. The general fund has 221,465.07. And I had to take 200,000 out of the Michigan class, the investment fund, and put it into the general fund, to pay the bills before we start actually collecting on December 1st for the taxes. The road fund, has a negative 7,243.41, but that's because I did not move the money for the brine over yet. Silver Lake Construction has 6735, and the tax fund has 29,745.28, and TNA has 356.01. And I wrote a check to the road fund, to the Oceana County Road Commission for $407,920. That's 400,000 for the Ridge Road, and then $7,920 is our brine bill. So that is why that, and I'll have to move that 7,000 over from Michigan class.
So kind of are all the roads then that we committed to paid?
No,
Oh,
we owe it's either 297 or 247. And that's the road that Mark Timmer gave us until March 5th,
okay.
or March, I don't know, sometime in March and of 25 to pay.
Okay.
So I'll only have 47,000 toward that, so.
Okay.
We have to start collecting taxes in December, and when I get that amount built up, then we can pay that.
Okay.
So. And. In your checks, I guess there's nothing too It's strange. That Keystone Cooperative, that's our, what used to be our fuel oil,
Right.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
so.
And Great Lakes Energy, how much of that, you know, is going to the new?
There's two bills to the new building.
Okay.
Uh,
One for the 110 and one for the 440.
yeah. Um, um, one bill is 5337. And I must have missed it in here, so.
Yeah, that's
And the other is 5925.
not much,
Yeah,
okay. I was
so
just
between the
curious.
two, it's been right around $120. So,
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll support.
roll call, please.
Dykstra,
Yes,
Kalenda,
Yes.
Heighting, yes, Cargill.
Yes. Okay, we have a zoning report.
Short and sweet, we have 113 zoning permits so far this year, and 25 are new homes. Then we had a boundary line adjustment, which I had given Rachel the paperwork on for Mr. Roski on Harrison Road on Lake Michigan. He owns both parcels, and he just wanted to do an adjustment to make sure his tram that goes down to the lake was on the property that the home is on, and the vacant one stays vacant. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Parks. You guys get it
Did-
all buttoned up and.
Yeah, we got it finished up yesterday, got all the water blowing out of the lines, and there's a little bit on Friday I gotta do at this park right here, and then I think all parks are buttoned up and ready for the winter.
Alrighty.
okay, we still got a 5-year plan. We need to get together on that. Okay.
I'm probably getting things organized together.
Okay, fire?
We've had, we're headed toward a record year, I think, for fire calls this year. The end of October, middle of 24th of October, our meeting, we'd already had 202 fires that we've gone to. And our record is 240, so we got 2 more months to go, so. And our medical first responders, so far, we've covered 248 calls for those. And that seems to be working really well. Guys are responding, we're getting 2 or 3 guys or firefighters to each call. We put a limit of 4, and we've been making the amount every call, and people are really happy that somebody gets it as quick as we do, so. We had an incident a while ago, I think it was when the wildfire was going out Silver Lake, our brush truck hit a deer. And got really sick with the front end of it, so we're gonna put a big deer bumper on the front of that, so. We hit another one, it won't do quite so much damage. And Dwight, I talked to Dwight the other day, and he commented, he wanted me to tell you that, having that water out there really helped with that wildfire. He says we could really get things going, and it worked smoothly, the guys whipped in, whipped out, ground on like, just like we thought they would. It really worked well, so
Good.
it's been a good asset for us, so we appreciate it. We're also, in response to that, one of the farmers up in Weir Township, after they had that big fire up there, has offered to, we're gonna put some valves on his center pivot. So we can get water out of that for over in that area, so that'll help water response to fires over there too, so. Other than that, things are going along good over fire.
Well, we also discussed the firefighters haven't had a raise since 2017.
17, yeah.
So we also voted on increasing the firemen's pay.
So what do they get?
They make, what is it, 25?
Now they get $20 a call, they raised it to 25.
Yeah.
$25 an hour.
So a big $5
Yeah.
an hour raise
Yeah.
to the firefighters, so it helps covers the fuel and some of their time.
Right.
And also, when we reviewed our insurance this past summer, we added an accidental death and dismemberment policy for those guys. Because there's been some problems with sometimes, like the guy up in Bentwater that come home and a day later had a heart attack and they said it wasn't fire related. But by doing this, that gives them an accidental death and dismemberment policy to cover whatever happens, and it covers them 24 hours, 7 days a week, so it gives them a lot more
That's good.
fringe benefit that they didn't have before, and it wasn't that expensive to add.
They are also submitting to help soften the blow. There was the big fire that was at the campground that got away was unattended. So the fire departments are submitting a bill, and Art is submitting one also to help cover some of the costs, because that was a pretty big fire.
That's it.
That's it? Planning commission?
We didn't have a meeting. Have you guys met on that?
Yeah, ready to go.
We had a meeting, weeks ago, and made some adjustments to a few things that we think ought to be adjusted, so we'll discuss them at the next meeting.
Good.
Bring it to you probably next month. All right, well, we have to give it to our legal counsel first. But
I'll be sending it out through email to the planning here in the next week or so.
Where are we on the Dune Locker PUD?
They're moving forward.
Don't we have to write up a new PUD for the amendment? There was, thought Ed was gonna. There was some,
Where's the ordinance at? I think is what he's, is that, what stage is that at?
I've got that finished, but I don't remember anything else we were doing.
They were going to possibly do a separate, PUD, but they haven't come, to my knowledge. That's
Yeah,
all
it's
under,
moving forward.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, boy, that's it. 20-acre addition parcel. Number is there to the existing PUD to allow 68 site condominium storage project to be built and sold individually over a 5-year period of time. No overnight stay allowed in these condominium units. Approved by the Golden Township Board on September 10th, 2024.
okay, wasn't there supposed to be something to do with?
So what you're talking about is when they had, the PUD was gonna be limited to that storage unit, and the question was,
Yes.
when the developer goes, should the homeowners association essentially
Mhm.
decline to enforce the rules,
Mhm.
and the township had to step in, that the township could make a claim against for its attorney fees.
Right.
Against the homeowners association. And so now what you've got is this has been combined into the original one. And so it's a little bit different now, and I'll get a hold of Brian about that.
Okay. Yeah, cause that's the thing you brought up, Bill,
Yeah, what we can do is have a letter,
right,
you know, something back and forth that we.
I believe we talked about that in the meeting
Yeah, we
at
did,
the township,
yeah.
we did, it was in the minutes.
yes.
Okay,
And I would think as long, correct me if I'm wrong, as long as it's in the minutes, we're good to go with that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you got, I mean, if you guys want
So.
If you want a letter, or whatever, I could have,
That'd be great.
have them write a letter and it can go in the file and there it is.
Correct.
So their association owns the green space?
So in a typical situation where you have a condominium set up, you have each owner of a condominium unit owns that unit, and then the common areas are held by the homeowners association.
So they are taxed.
The
Buildings on leased land and then
The homeowners association does what has to be done in the common areas and then essentially bills the condo unit
Units,
owners for
right.
that, for their pro rata share.
Okay,
But what we're talking about is actually, I think the concern was somebody sleeping in those things.
yeah,
And if the homeowners association chose not to,
great place.
or it didn't, or whatever, enforce the rules that they have. And the idea was that the township would be able to step in, not that it had to, but it could. And then if that happened, the concern was
Who pays?
attorney fees.
Yeah,
Attorney fees.
Right.
okay,
We just want to have something in the file on that.
yeah.
I'll get old Brian about that.
Mhm. Okay. Road?
I'm broke.
Yes, yes, they are, we're broke. We did get we paid for 52nd, we paid for This is Ridge. And we paid for our brining.
Finish the streets of Mears too.
And we finished the streets of Mears, yes.
We got a lot of work done this year.
Yeah, we did, we really did.
And, I've started looking at a couple of projects for next year when we find out how much money I got left. I'll
Yeah,
see what we can do about
yeah,
getting those online.
yep.
The brining, any word on that, the two application, did that work better than the single application?
Mhm.
I didn't know if you had any feedback.
I haven't heard
Seen
anything
some.
from anybody, but I can.
Right here.
Definitely,
Do.
it controlled a lot of the dust on Beechwood big time, doing two of them, splitting it out.
For future use. Just-
Mhm.
And I should have drawings from the surveyor for 18.
Hmm.
And then we can submit that to Timber and try to get that going then too.
Okay. Barbie has been really busy this week and, actually the last month. She, yesterday finished our role, adding all the changes in the addresses and the property transfers and stuff. So then tomorrow I will be locking it in and mailing it out to or not mailing it, emailing it to the printer. So that they can get the bills ready for December 1st to go out, so. That is that. Okay, new business, library,
Library, that's fun.
it is.
Okay, so. I have some thoughts. I've been kind of absent on a lot of this, but I have some thoughts on this. 5 months from now. Actually, less than 6 months from now, they're gonna be asking for $30,000. They want 25 now. We're kicking the can down the road. We're not doing anything. Let's move on.
Yep.
Let's look at maybe in the future of internet for these people and figure out what their needs are. And let's start small and let's get going on it. We gotta provide some kind of a service and let's start with free Wi-Fi for our community at this building. I think we should look at Shotwell and see what it takes
Mhm.
and start investing money in ourselves. At this point, because it's $50,000 in less than 6 months that we gotta write a check for. We can do a lot with that for ourselves. So let's stop kicking the can.
What about having the library in this building?
Well, we can talk about that in the future, but right now
Yeah.
we need to get off library and get on to what's gonna take and find out what the needs are for our community.
Yeah.
And let's get going on it.
Yep. I
We've
would
got
agree.
new leadership coming next month. And I'm really curious to see how they lead us. So library, I'd say, It's over. Let's turn the page.
True green. And
Well, I sent you guys the one for this year and I sent you one from last year showing you the difference.
there was
And the amount-
$100.
$61 difference.
61.
Yeah.
Wasn't a lot, but anyways, they wanted us to give them, the go ahead if we're gonna do the one application at the 4 places.
A motion was to go ahead to do the application that we did last year. They did a nice job.
Okay,
I'll support.
I guess we need a roll call, we're spending money.
Alrighty. Belinda,
Yes.
Extra,
Yes,
Cargill,
Yes.
and I think, yeah.
Yes. Short-term rental.
What do you want to know about short-term rental?
I don't know, what do you wanna know?
I
Somebody
think-
had an agenda, so we need to talk about it.
So late fees and stuff like that, we talked about increasing that. I do believe.
Yeah,
What
we
was-
have a, we have a.
We have a
write-up
breakdown.
right here that I gave you guys.
Yeah,
oh, you do?
Yep.
We emailed.
Yeah, I emailed it to you guys. We talked about it last board meeting, and should we say that all STR application must be in by February 28th deadline, or $100 late fee be added on to the $200 fee? So that was what's suggested, and then if you don't acquire an STR permit and are caught advertising, leasing, or renting your dwelling as an STR, you'll receive a $500 citation plus $300 to pay for the permit. So you get the late fee and the $200 fee, plus the 500 on top of all that. So that's $800, they'd have to say,
If they're late.
if they're caught without getting one.
I think kind of hard, really, if you say they need to be in by February 28th. What if somebody doesn't decide to rent until after
Well,
February?
if they haven't decided to do it until afterwards, then they don't have to pay any fee. It's not late because they didn't decide to do it until afterwards.
Well, I'm not gonna decide until after. You know.
No, if they've been doing it though, right? If they've been doing it, they're already in the system.
But I
and they
didn't
don't
plan on
have an
doing it.
excuse.
I didn't plan on doing it next year, but now, you know, I got people that wanna come back.
No, that doesn't count.
I'm gonna do
You've
it.
already
now.
been ready, you're in trouble.
You know, one of the big things is VRBO, Airbnb.
Right,
If they are advertising, get your permit.
Exactly.
I understand.
If they were doing it,
I think we're just too low on that permit fee.
Well, that's
Yeah.
another story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you guys can talk about.
I think we need to. Do we have to decide this right now?
No.
No.
I think
Well-
we need to think about this and go through. And
table it,
How many-
work on it maybe?
how many permits did we do?
It's in there 25, I think.
225. And a little offbeat, what's going on with the, Silver Lake Association not allowing rentals? Now, is that gonna bring
Upper
it
Silver
down?
Lake.
Upper Silver Lake?
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
gonna
they're
bring
gonna
it down?
rent and they're gonna not comply with Upper Silver Lake, they still have to pull their rental permit.
Let's go pull it around.
Yeah, so I don't know where that's going. I don't know as if we can go on what they're gonna do.
No, I'm just looking at that, are they gonna comply, or are they not? There's 200. I'm just doing math in my head. I mean,
I've already had people from there send in stating, if I get it now, they can't do anything.
here's my problem with rentals. Is everybody complains lack of law enforcement. If we raise that fee up. And the problems occur Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you helped with that fee by raising it up, and we gave it to the sheriff's department to hire a full-time law enforcement. And then on Mondays, they can go around with whoever the zoning person is, handing out citations or something, kind of have somebody there to help with that. But now we've got someone here, so when there is a complaint, there's someone to actually answer the call when the complaint comes in. We've gotta think this through.
Right.
We can't just have this on the agenda and so, oh, let's just do this, do this. Let's think this through. And
Yeah.
I think you've got some ideas coming in
Mhm.
to the next board meeting. So I kind of like to throw this off to the side for a little bit. Let's
Table. Table it.
think this through and discuss this next month.
Yeah, there was another thing that Rob had sent out about, a webpage. There's a company out there that, has a web solution. They can, look at what people are renting and they can look at Airbnb and the others, and that gives us a way to check. Now, I just did a little area in Golden, and I looked at who registered. And I found twice as many on Airbnb as what Rob had. So we're only getting half.
Right,
And it's not fair to the people that.
The legit people.
That's right, and so, having a late fee, I think it's more about if you're caught.
Right.
And then there's got to be,
It needs to stay a little bit.
there's gotta be a fine. I know that there's a mailing going out and we would have to decide something this week. It might not hurt to have something in there to say, hey, in 1st of March, with your tax assessment, you'll get the final determination from the board. But in the meantime, if you are renting, be aware, next year you're going to be required to pay. And get the permit. Cause I think there are people out there that don't know.
Don't know, don't wanna know.
That don't
that
know.
too.
That's true, and that's why, okay, we need to make sure that, if they are getting mailings from the township, that they know that this is a requirement.
I'm just curious, to take time and look at our surrounding communities up and down the lake shore. And see what they're doing and how they're handling this,
Yeah.
because this is not a problem just in Silver Lake.
no,
But I know that there have been other communities along the lake shore.
yeah.
That are
Saugatuck
limiting.
and Holland, they've got them and,
Yeah, but they're limiting the number,
yeah,
and I don't think that's something that we want to do.
Right.
This is a resort area and, taking that initiative like others have is the wrong direction.
Being out in the community, there's a lot of people that have said, I just can't afford to keep the family cottage.
Mhm.
I have to rent it.
Mhm.
They have to keep that in order to pay for it. They don't wanna lose it. They put it in the family.
Yeah.
Great grandpa built it with his bare hands and
Mhm.
unfortunately they got no time, so
Yeah,
we need to make it possible.
But our fee is not that much.
No, but I think it could go up.
Yeah,
Well,
Because
one thing I like about this internet thing, I'm not saying necessarily to go with it, they can pinpoint the non-compliant. There's no guesswork to it, and you can move forward with that issue. I do like that about
So
it,
we need to have costs and how that benefit.
yeah.
Mhm.
so
That's gonna be
there's,
a time
And
saving.
and we have
Just
to
be
look
like-
and see if there's one this one is in Utah, I think. They work out of Utah. I would hope that we could find one that maybe is in Michigan. Just,
well, I'll post on MTA webpage.
And
their
I'm gonna
community
go down there
forum
and see if
and
they
see
know
what
anybody.
others are doing
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
and find out.
so
But I
we'll
think we need to continue
do
to talk
some
about it.
research.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll table that.
Do you want to put something in the mailing that's going out with,
If you do, I gotta have it by tomorrow.
well,
Well, what is that gonna look like? We don't,
Yeah, I would.
I don't think so. I'd rather not rush it. And we
Okay.
can send it out with Barbie's tax notices, her tax assessment notices.
Okay.
And that goes out in February, which granted, it's awful close to the end of February, but, she has to get them out for the March board reviews.
Right.
I
Then
think the
we
only
can-
thing with regard to this cost that I mentioned before is that whatever fees we charge have to be to recompense the township for expenses. Now, you know, the expense of the program. And certainly, like, for instance, that computer, what you're talking about right now would be an expense
Right,
of the program. And so you can see where, like, maybe that's included in when somebody is, you know, in a fine. You
right,
know, the total amount of a fine, but so when you're determining, you can try to judge how much time is is being spent. Overhead, whatever, I mean, that's your department, but that's where it gets based. And you can, as long as it's based on expense, you can be broad in your definition.
He does not have the time to go out and look at.
I'm not
Yeah,
suggesting he does,
Yeah.
what I was using that as an
Right.
example of thinking more broadly as to what is an expense.
right,
so if we say 30% of his time is spent on short-term rental or what, and 30% of his
Yeah,
salary
You
and,
find a defensible method
Right.
to assign an expense to,
offset the.
offset the
to
price,
offset the expenses of the program.
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah, okay. Okay. Hazardous mitigation plan. Should have all gotten a copy of the adoption. Basically, it allows us, if we agree to this, to qualify for, huh?
He signs that.
Who signs it?
Our
The township supervisor.
He's not here, in the other country. When's it gotta be in?
I don't know. I don't know, I don't have the letter with me, but I think probably we can just, one of us sign it for, and then put as approved by the township board. I can sign it and clerk signs it.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll support.
All those in favor? Oh, I have to have roll call vote, I'm sorry.
We do.
That's what this says here, roll call vote. I'm just following instructions.
Okay. Belinda,
Yes.
Dykstra.
Yes.
Cargill.
Yes,
IG.
okay, we're all approved. Okay. Public comment.
Hi, I'm Janet Carter, and I know you're tired of hearing from me about the library, but I really want to put my wish forward that we need to deal with them. We already have $20,000 they gave back to us. So it'll be $20,000 ahead for next year, whatever their bill is. I presume it's gonna be 30,000. I just ask that you please do that. We are privileged that we have been able to use the Poundwater Library, but the idea of having a Golden Township Library, in my mind, is ludicrous. The Poundwater Library is lovely, but it's about maybe a fourth the size of the Hart Library. And you couldn't afford that. I mean, goodness, if you don't think we can afford 30,000, we sure couldn't afford whatever that would include with salaries and stocking the books and whatever. Thank you for listening.
Anybody else? You didn't let me down.
Just, here, don't be, I've got, I have something to say. This is for Bill. You talked about people and their short-term rentals saying, well, I want to keep it because of this and that. And I couldn't keep it if I didn't rent it because that's the only way I can afford it. Well, if you can't afford the damn thing, then you ought to sell it. Plain and simple. You know? I'm going through this at Upper Silver.
And I feel the same way, and you know, I started talking about this clear last year. In the short-term rental thing. Muskegon, North Muskegon. Holland, Grand Haven, Saugatuck are all ones that have hit the news in the last 6 months. Due to short-term rentals, because they're overrunning communities. And of course, it's lakeshore communities. As you all know, we got a big fight going on Upper Silver. So. That's my nickel's worth on to you, Bill. If you can't afford it. I mean, did you go out and buy 50 golf carts and then not make the payments? Or. You know, so that I couldn't afford it, but I did it anyways. Sell them if you can't afford it.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't.
Am I allowed to get an answer to a question? When you spoke on the budget, you said the new building, were you referring to the pump storage unit that the fire department is now using
Yeah, the building out by the
on Taylor Road?
emergency services.
And that was furnished through a grant, correct?
ARPA funds.
Why is there a deficit?
Is there a comment in here?
I don't know,
If this is for comment, not for question and answer.
Yeah.
Do you have a comment?
Yes,
Okay,
perhaps wisdom should have been used in designing the building and the size of the building. Along with things of adding the porta potty. You know, you could put a bathroom in there before. It is a pump storage facility. The fire department hooks up to it, and yes, it is beneficial to this entire community. Because of the structure. We need to revisit that. And as to the other comment about, the needs of our community. Regarding the library. You have had parents. You have had multiple citizens. Ask you to do this. The comments have been made. That, you know, we're the goose that laid the golden egg and we have the most money, etc. If you want to be treated like other townships, if that's what you like, some of the other townships doubled their contributions to the library to sustain the fact that their residents could go to the public library in Hart. So please, look to the needs of this community. Listen to the people that are talking to you. It's supposed to be your responsibility to represent everyone in this community. And as she said, you won't be able to do it as a private institution called the Golden Township Library.
Anybody else? Once, one twice.
no,
We're not in a deficit.
yeah, I'm good.
Nope.
What were you?
Road.
Yeah, no, I'm good now.